What is going on, guys? Today I'm going to talk about the two exotic archetypes that have been revealed so far in Battlefield 5. One of them is brand new, coming out of E3, so we'll talk about that one in a little bit. To refresh your guys' memory though, just in case you forgot, there was one that was already revealed to us during the first Battlefield 5 reveal in May. This one was called the Recon Paratrooper, and it was described as a stealthy, short-range, behind enemy lines gameplay exotic archetype. Kills silently using suppressed SMGs and silent gadgets. These exotic archetypes are meant to get us away from those one-class-fits-all situations and makes you progress deeper into a specific class and create these exotic archetypes that will do really good at one specific thing. So for this exotic archetype, we're seeing it really want to be good at remaining stealthy. So we see things on its stats there for the agility, which is up really high, and the health regeneration is average, blast reduction is average, but its suppression sensitivity is below average, which would make sense if you're trying to go behind enemy lines and avoiding the front lines and all of that, you know, machine gun fire that's meant to suppress all of your teammates who are there battling, trying to push the front lines. So you would most likely avoid all of that, so your suppression sensitivity can remain low. We see more of this with the available weapons like the suppressed SMGs and suppressed handguns, so still keeping that stealthy factor. And then we see more of that reflected in the available gadgets with things like throwing knives, and then we see some of the perks there like these silent footsteps. So this is kind of the idea that DICE again wants to bring us, which is a deeper progression and really getting specific to your classes on what you want your archetypes to do really well at. So now let's talk about the new exotic archetype we saw during Battlefield's big E3 event. There were 4 archetypes that we could see, one for each class, but the support class had an extra archetype, that one being the exotic. The image you're seeing here though is just for the regular archetype for the support class. This one's called the engineer, and we could see a little bit of the stats there where has some pretty good agility, suppression resistance is average, blast reduction a little bit lower, and then the ability to pick light machine guns, and it has things like ammo pouch and anti-tank mines. We didn't see anything about the perks, so it seems like DICE is kind of holding back more about that stuff, but I'll elaborate a little bit more of that in a second. But let's now talk about the new exotic archetype that came to the support class for this big Battlefield E3 event. This one was called the Machine Gunner, and it was described as make it rain with the heavy support, lay down suppressive fire to lead your squad behind enemy lines. So no exotic terms being used here, but I heard from different sources that this is an exotic archetype. You'll see it reflected better in the stats when we go over them here. One thing I want to point out is the availability of the medium machine guns this time. So the other support class had access to light machine guns, but this one had a medium machine gun, and the gun you could see it being used on the battlefield was the M34, and you could only hip fire with this weapon and could not aim down sights unless you went prone with your bipod or you posted up on a ledge or like on sandbags. Using the bipod, from what I saw and heard, really increased the accuracy for this medium machine gun. So if you wanted to really maximize this weapon, posting up on sandbags or going prone was how you wanted to use this specific gun. That might make more sense with the increased agility for this soldier, as you see its stats there in the top being up to max. Maybe that has something to do with you now carrying a little bit larger of a machine gun this time and not rolling around with one of the light machine guns. We see the suppression resistance go up a little bit too, you know, maybe because if you're laying down a lot of that suppression fire, you do not want to be taking in what you're dealing out. And then we see the blast reduction down to the lowest, which would make sense if you are posted up somewhere and, you know, you're not directly trying to flank behind enemy players or doing something like that. Probably away from the tanks and all the explosions a little bit, so you don't really need much blast reduction. Now we don't see any health regeneration stats here, so that is interesting. Not sure what's going on here. Again, we're in pre-alpha, so a lot can change. But moving down, we see the available gadgets, but this time we see the ammo crate instead of the ammo pouch, which is what the other support class archetype had. So that is pretty interesting to note, as I have heard it said that the medics could only use the medic pouch and not the medic crate, even though the medic crate option was there on their loading screen. So that makes you think if part of this progression will give you the availability to unlock these different type of crates and pouches, and maybe there will be advantage to either or of them. So that's interesting to note down. We as well see the flare gun here, so you can see the gameplay if you find people using this exotic archetype where they are using the flare gun to spot enemy players on their minimap. And then we go down to the perks, where this time we see nothing on the perks, so I'm left to kind of speculate what could be some of the possibilities. One idea could be, since we've seen the M34 barrel overheat and the cool animation that your character does to swap in a fresh barrel, maybe one of these perks will allow you not to overheat as easily. Again, this is just my speculation, nothing confirmed from DICE or anything I heard from the EA Game Changers community, but something cool to think about. So feel free to let me know your guys' thoughts on what these perks could be possibly for these exotic archetypes. One thing I do want to note is it is pretty interesting to see this machine gunner exotic being the type of class where you can really lay down suppression fire, but that other recon exotic I showed you at the very beginning of the video is one that doesn't do very good handling suppression. So kind of interesting to see the different spectrums here. So maybe we're seeing two ends of the spectrum. Not quite sure. I think we still have a lot more to be revealed here, which is pretty obvious from the lack of real, players and guns and all the gadgets that we're seeing. I do want to make one final note and point out that I did hear it being said that some of the scout classes, as you progress, can have other weapons other than sniper guns. So you could see things like SMGs for the scout classes, or something other than the actual sniper guns. So that's what I heard. I'm not sure if I heard SMGs would be the case, and if that is the case, it made me kind of think that maybe that first exotic archetype we saw wasn't actually an assault player, which is what I first initially believed, as it has a submachine gun. But after hearing that the scout classes, as you progress, have the possibility to have different guns, maybe we're looking at a scout exotic archetype. We don't know. We'll find out more again, but feel free to let me know what you guys are thinking about these exotic archetypes. I know myself am pretty excited, as I love progression of my character and diving into things, and really hope that there's a lot of progression branches that we can go out here. So there's just a lot of different characters out there that have really good abilities and different things, and really brings a deeper depth to the battlefield. But that is it for you guys today. Again, I always appreciate you guys being here. I am Livin', and I'll catch you guys again later.